Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have a certified strength and conditioning specialist, educator, and presenter from Hong Kong. Drawing on his master's degree in exercise science and influenced by his 10-year stay in the United States, Andy has a unique outlook on health and athletics performance. He has a genuine passion for making a positive impact in the fitness industry through learning and sharing different unique methodologies. Andy Chan, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Excited for you to be here. So tell us a bit about your background before we go into your book and your training methods. How did you get into all this?
Sure, yeah. I think these days, if anyone goes online or if they go on social media and just search anything health and fitness related stuff, chances are they're going to get so much information that's going to overwhelm them. And many people don't really know where to start or what to do after they start. So my job as a strength and conditioning specialist, as a coach, as an author, and now as a presenter is to categorize everything and is to help explain things so that people, or at least the people that I work with, don't have to waste time implementing practices that ultimately hinders their performance, but actually incorporate practices that gets them to strive and gets them to the optimal health and human performance point. So, these days I do personal training, the group training, I do now webinars, and I do corporate workshops, just about everything, Dave.
Well, that's fantastic. But anyway, I'm, corporate Hong Kong. It is a corporate word. I've been to Central, by the way, so I know.
Oh, very cool. Central is where the business district is for everyone that's
right.
Listening, and everything is there. I'll tell you a fun fact. Within like 1 kilometer radius of Central, there are at least 30 to 50 fitness studios now.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean,
that's where I work.
Well, it's huge anyway. And people like to work out before or after the gym or even in lunchtime and things like that, or somewhere in between. So,
yeah, and we do know that the fitness industry is booming. So obviously it's a lot of competition in a way is good because that means everybody is looking for a trainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, fantastic. I've been to Hong Kong a couple of times. You probably don't know. I didn't probably tell you before our pre-chat. I used to be an athlete. I was a track athlete, and I actually did and I was also a firefighter. So I combined the both and did the World Firefighter Games in Hong Kong in 2006. So you probably still at school then in 2006. And your namesake, Jackie Chan, opened up the actual games for us. So he said, I'm not the hero, you're the hero.
Yeah, well, 2 things. Number 1, I didn't even know these games existed. And 2, when I was in the US, people would always ask, is Jackie Chan your uncle? Because we share the same last name. And if you, Dave, have been in Hong Kong, Chan is one of the most popular last names out there. So if you just shout Mr. Chan on the street, literally 100 people will look at you.
Yeah. I remember when I was in the back of a fire truck and there's 3 Daves in there. I said, Dave, can you get that? And we all pass the same thing when they say, can you pass it?
Exactly.
Pass the location book.
Exactly. So in the US, I just at the end, I gave up and I tell people Jackie Chan's my uncle.
That's probably the best idea. So what was you doing at school and everything? I mean, was you pretty much fitness conscious and stuff like that, to begin with?
Yeah, so I was in the United States for 10 years for school, so middle school, high school, university.
Oh, right, okay.
And my undergraduate degree, so in the bio, it says that I have a master's in exercise science, but my undergraduate degree was actually in accounting. And after doing accounting, what I did was I came back to Hong Kong, and then I had a chance to become a professional footballer.
Okay.
Yeah, Yunnan Football Club, a local professional team. They gave me a chance to go on trial, and let me tell you, those weeks that I trained with them turned into months because after a few weeks, it was clear that I wasn't good enough to make the team. But the coach was kind enough to allow me to train with them, just so I get to experience what it's like as a full-time athlete, although I was unpaid. And I've learned so much, Dave, because being a full-time athlete, the way you approach fitness, the way you approach training, the way you approach nutrition is different. Yeah. But I'll share with everybody the defining moment of my experience as a trialist at a professional football team. So there was this one day, we were going about doing agility drills. So for anyone who's listening, this is typically done with cones on the floor, and you're going to do some flashy moves to work on coordination, to work on sequencing, and to work on your overall athletic ability. So one day we were all going about doing the drills, and then the fitness coach, he pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey, Andy, when everybody goes about doing these drills, they're agile, they touch and go, they switch directions quickly. But when you do it, you have your arms out to the side, you do like 180-degree rotation, and you turn like a robot. Why are you so stiff?" And honestly, that was an epiphany, because anyone can tell you in elite level athletics, half a second, it matters greatly, because I was a defender, and that half second slower turn, it's going to lead to us conceding a goal. So I realized at that time that whatever I was doing inside the gym did not help my performance. So that's kind of how I got started on this road of becoming a strength and conditioning coach, because I wanted to make sure that the next generation don't fall into the same mistakes that we did, which was to think that training for physique equate to better athletic performance. And that's essentially what I've been preaching over the past few years.
Yeah. It's amazing, because you're already fit and an athlete already, and lots of athletes, they do turn to personal training, or they don't do anything like it at all, so some just don't.
Yeah, well, I tell you, a lot of people turn up, and a true story, right? High school, I was in a nearby gym. I joined the gym because I wanted to become a better footballer, as most teenagers would do.
You're talking about soccer. Are you talking about soccer football, by the way?
Yeah, soccer. Soccer, real football. Real football. We don't use soccer, okay? And
so you Americans out there.
Yeah, exactly. I was in the gym, and then I was telling the coach that I wanted to become a better footballer. And then guess what he said? Of all the things he could have said, he was like, "Oh, you should do some leg raises." So leg raises is the one where you put your arms on the machine and you literally just lift up your legs. And he was like, because that's going to mimic the kicking movement, and you're going to kick the ball further, man. You're going to shoot the ball harder, and you're going to become a better footballer. And as a gullible teenager, I believed him. And, fair enough, after 3 months of doing leg raises, my game did not improve.
Yeah. I mean, probably squats would have helped a lot more, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Dave, that's a very interesting topic, because ultimately, I think that the question that we all want to know is, regardless of whether you're an athlete or an everyday person, what can we do to improve our performance overall? And inside the gym, especially, what can we do to become healthier humans? And the conclusion that I've came to is, well, we have to train total body movements. Have you heard of that?
Nope. No, it's
Yeah. So basically, what we have to do is, instead of training isolated muscle groups, we have to train our abilities to move, which means that instead of categorizing our day of training into, today I'm going to train my pecs, and this next day I'm going to train my lats, I'm going to train, for example, you brought out the term squat. I'm going to train my ability to squat as a movement. So I might modify the way I squat, but it is still a squat. Well, guess what? As an athlete, I'm going to squat in different positions, right? As I pick up my child off the ground, as I buy groceries. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's kind of functional training.
It is a way to explain functional training, because, well, functional training is like an umbrella term, but what type of function are we talking about, right? Because we have to be able to categorize different things we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we've moved on to the topic and away from your little backstory. Well, it's not a little backstory. I'm sure you have more of a story to say. I wanted to find out how well you did at the soccer and everything else, football, sorry. But now we're talking about this subject. Tell us more about your side of your fitness business, and of course, what you call dynamic. Is it dynamic movement? Is it?
Yeah. Well, so currently, as a fitness professional, I'm going to be transparent and vulnerable here, right? I think a lot of times we know that fitness is my passion. I think a lot of times that's why we get started on this health journey as a strength conditioning coach, as a personal trainer. But at the same time, it is also my career. So I have to think about diversifying the way that I make income, and I have to think about different ways to generate revenue. And so for me, I have a few things set up, right? Including, so personal training obviously is my bread and butter. And I also do corporate workshops. That's been my big area that I've focused on, because in that way I can change many more lives, right? So if you think about personal training, I'm only influencing one person at a time. But whenever I go do corporate workshop, I'm doing 20 to 100 people at a time. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on. And I also do a lot of education for trainers who would like to get some certifications.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you train the trainers as well as do your own clients as well, train your own clients.
Yeah, well, in fact, it is through training the trainers that has gotten me the credentials to do more, right? Because a lot of times we talk about in life, you meet certain people, and for me, I've met some wonderful people at Optimum Performance Studio here in Hong Kong that has given me the opportunity to become what we call a master trainer. Essentially, we're educators. We present on behalf of companies, and that has gotten me exposure, which gotten me more opportunities, and then I was fortunately able to leverage those opportunities.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go more deeper into this story where you've left. Obviously now you've set up, you've got into personal training in the States, fitness training, because you realized someone said, "Why are you moving like a robot?" and a few other things happened. So you got well into that, and then you kind of more or less became a business in corporate America, and then you transitioned to move it to Hong Kong. So tell us the story from A to B then.
Yeah, well, actually, everything happened. Yeah. Everything happened in Hong Kong. So I actually moved back to Hong Kong after I graduated. So the football, the personal training all happened in Hong Kong.
So when you did your master's, that was in the US?
That was in the US, yeah. So it was actually a distance learning degree, because at the time, most of the practical courses I've actually already done, but I needed the academic work. So it was an option to do it remotely, and then the virus came, and so it just worked out perfectly.
Yeah, because I know in America they do this point system where you've got some work done, they can count towards the degree as well, can't it? So
yes. So a lot of things would count towards the degree.
Yeah. Okay, so you started your business in Hong Kong, so I didn't realize that. I thought you actually had it and then just moved over to Hong Kong and finished it off.
All in Hong Kong, thankfully, because it would have been a mess to do anything in America business-wise.
Really? Oh, that's interesting, because this big American dream and corporate America and everything.
I think the dreaming part, yes, but the logistics, right? You can think of the taxes. It's the small things, right? If you talk business, usually it's the small expenses that kind of hinders you, and usually the dream is always there and sound good, right?
But then any country can say the same thing. I mean, we could say the UK dream, the Hong Kong dream, even, the Asia dream, because Asia's now really, it's a place to be for business, to be honest, So.
Well, it is thriving, let me tell you. In this health and fitness space, I mean, you could host anything here and it'll be sold out. And like Dave, you could come next week and host a health talk, and people will be happy to sign up. I mean, they would love to know more.
Wow, I'll go there with my book as well. Probably give a little talk as well, to give my story. Yeah, that would be great. But you could probably we could probably stay in touch, and I might well do that while I'm here in the Philippines, because it's not that much to get there, and we could work something out there. Well, let's get some value. Let's get some value to our audience and go to your book now. So your book's called what, and what is it about?
Sure. So I have co-authored a book this year, in the beginning of this year. It's called Dynamic Balance. And the whole premise behind the book is we wanted to unpack and demystify Chinese medicine for fitness enthusiasts, for coaches, for athletes. Because previously in my 10-year stay in the US, what I've noticed and what I've found was that Chinese medicine is presented in a mystical and weird alternative way. Yet, if you kind of look in professional athletics world, right, a lot of athletes are using cupping, a lot of them are doing dry needling, a lot of them are doing, acupuncture, gua sha, scraping. But there isn't a book out there that could lay out the language for us, other than using Chinese medicine terms to explain Chinese medicine. but no one has ever used English terms to explain qi, blood, yin and 5 elements. Because I think a lot of audience can resonate. Sometimes you ask a Chinese medicine professional, oh, what is qi? And then they'll be like, oh, qi is qi. And you're like, okay, speak English. And so what we wanted to do is to actually explain qi, blood, yin and 5 elements in a simple, digestible way. And then in the second part of the book, we looked at diet, emotions, and training, the intricacies between those three through the lens of Chinese medicine.
Yeah. And would emotions include things like sleep and everything else? Because I know sleep is big. It's, that's the topic in itself.
Yeah, sleep is big, but we didn't go into it too much in the book, just because we just said, well, you need to have enough sleep, because we wanted to look at the intersection between the East and the West. For example, if we look at diet, right? Diet is it seems
not a
so
medicine so much.
Yeah. So we just didn't focus on sleep, but more on lifestyle or other aspects of lifestyle.
And I mean, Chinese medicine, I mean, probably a stupid question, but it is huge out in China. I mean, is it more of an Eastern practice still, or do they take on the Western side of things still more so now? Or?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's definitely not a stupid question, because the fact that you think it's a stupid question it's an indicator that most people are just unaware and misinformed, right? Because I think it's like now, well, last week I gave a presentation and 500 people signed up at Concordia University, Chicago. And a lot of times we go on these US podcasts or US interviews or with people, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to offend you, because I actually don't know much. But this is the point of the book, because people don't know. But to answer the question here, I would say that most people are familiar with the basic concepts, but it's also treated in a skeptical way, just because the regulation on the subject is a bit looser compared to Western medical science. Because as we know, so I can tell you, right, the distinct difference between the two is Chinese medicine is a lot more relative and ambiguous. Meaning your energy level, or the way they describe your circulation and energy levels, are always relative. While if you look at Western conventional medicine, you've always got these markers to explain, right? You've got your pH, you've got your body temperature, you've got your oxygen level. So you've got all these numbers to tell you, okay, you are balanced. But in Chinese medicine, you don't have these objective measures. So a lot of them are relying on experience of the physician and of your subjective feeling, which is where it causes confusion.
Right, I see. Oh, that's quite interesting. But I know a lot of people turn to Eastern medicine. I don't know if you want to call it Eastern or Chinese medicine.
Whatever works for me.
No, because I mean, obviously acupuncture is big, and that's come from China, hasn't it? For example, and it works. So a lot of people turn to that because they feel that they've wasted their time with Western medicine and nothing's happened. All of a sudden, things worked for them when they've gone to Chinese medicine or some practices.
Yeah, and the thing I try to make clear in Diet Balance, as well as with my clients, is that a lot of times there's this East versus West kind of mentality, like people are pitting it against each other. Yeah. But for me, so I spent 10 years in the United States. I'm 30 years old. I'm 31 years old. So majority of my thoughts are developed in the US. So I would say, why can't we utilize both methodologies, right? Because Western conventional medicine has saved so much lives, and we know that it works. I think for those who are listening, know that those you can have both of them, and you can have best of both worlds. But if you don't understand Chinese medicine at all, then you cannot have the best of both worlds. So certainly in Beijing or in China, if you do Chinese medicine courses now, it's a prerequisite to do some Western medicine first, just so people have a basic understanding of the way that conventional medicine approaches things.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. But of course, you're a fitness trainer and a personal trainer, I should say. Obviously, it must be a celebrity one in Hong Kong, because you've been on TV and everything as well, and also in the States as well, I think, as well. So,
yeah, I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have exposure, I must say. Although I'm still looking to develop and hopefully more to come.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose given your age and obviously your experience, but you've got a lot more to come and offer, and
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to go off a tangent here, but essentially, this is what the question was when I went through an internal struggle 4 or 5 years ago before I wrote Dynamic Balance, and that was, Dave, the health and fitness space is so crowded and jammed, and how can I differentiate myself? Because if you look online, you've got all these gurus and all these nice looking male and female trainers who are showing off their six pack and their pecs and their glutes. What do I do? And so I think the moment changed when I realized I could do something for the industry. For example, when it comes down to dynamic balance, I could use my unique background to make a change in the industry by offering insights to the culture, because we go a lot into the Chinese culture just so we understand where these terminologies originate from. And so for those who are listening, know that today, if you're just kind of stuck in your career, you should look inside and think about what's unique about yourself, because everybody's unique, right? Your background. And if you think about what you can bring to the table, then that will ensure that you kind of have a competitive advantage. Whereas if you just do the same thing as everybody else around you, then you're going to be the same as everybody else. So just meditate on that and think about that for a little bit.
Exactly. It's like a USP or unique selling point, or having a niche or things like that. But you're lucky because you did have that niche already. And it's like me, I kind of combined my knowledge and experience and everything. And it's not just simply, I won't know about fitness or I know about, it's just what happened to me in life and what I've collected, my own information I can give out, and that's what you've done as well, isn't it? Really, and created your own unique way of putting it across. And so that's the one thing. And the other thing is what you're saying, the way you're putting it is it's for the people out there. It's not like showing off your six pack, or I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but you're actually there to help people, aren't you? Really, it's really not so much. I'm trying to find the right word for it. A gimmick or something,
Yeah, I think once you, for example, like this year, right after Dynamic Balance, the way that I've been treated has been different in that I've gained more respect among my peers. And I'm going on all these podcasts, all these shows. I'm giving webinars to all these international corporations, and all of a sudden, people are treating me with respect. But this is so dangerous because it becomes like an egotistic practice, right? We do know that all these personal training, all these fitness professionals, all these sports and health professionals is ultimately about treating clients. So it is a client-centered job by nature. Yet sometimes, with fame, I don't want to say fame because I'm nowhere near, but with success, with success, it's so easy to think that, well, I'm Andy Chan and you should be fortunate that you're talking to me.
I know.
The day when that happens, we know it's the end of my career and life because I've missed the point.
No, it's exactly it. And also, I mean, with what's happened in the last couple of years or so, and even what's going on now, around the world, not, obviously it's the war economically, and that was going to come anyway. It's people's well-being, isn't it, and self-care and stuff like that. So it's there for it's information for the people, and what you have to offer is really for people to use.
I think the question is, what can we do every single day, right? That is tangible and practical. And the thing is, diet, right? The way we approach diet, you don't have to be so extreme about it. Chinese medicine, it's all about eating according to what you have. Like practical example is, Dave, you're in Philippines now, as far as I know, and then you're going to go to Singapore, and then you're going to go back to the UK. And the diet culture in all three places are so distinctly different. If someone tells you should be eating the same foods in the Philippines as you do in the UK, I think you look at them and be like, you're ignorant, because in the Philippines there's so much seafood to eat. If I go into the UK, all the seafood is fried. And so that speaks to Chinese medicine, right? Our diet should be dependent on the way on the location that we live in, according to what we have and the way we feel, and that's one practical example of how we should be living.
Absolutely. So tell us more about your business, what you're doing now, and what you're up to soon. Soon, really, I should say.
Yeah, now I am going about promoting my book, although that has slowed down. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the book has slowed down a little bit as we kind of approach. I think by the time this podcast releases, we will be out for at least 8-9 months now. So I'm not hustling as much as I did in the first half a year. So now I'm focusing more on my corporate workshops and just talking to different corporates to see what they need. And that's always a challenge just because, so whenever I engage with big corporations, they always ask me to write some proposals, and then they look into what I can offer. But that's always a super long process, yet interesting because you get to understand what they want for their employees. So for me, I'm just kind of working on managing that, because compared to personal training, my skill set in getting these projects or deals is a lot. I'm a lot more fresher compared to, I'm less seasoned, I should say. So I'm working on that, and just to improve my ability to get these gigs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, certainly, I would love to come to Hong Kong and maybe, share the stage with you, and then, give my expertise in my area, or maybe do a live podcast as well, and you do a live session on stage as well.
We have to. It'll be a nice collaboration.
Yeah. Well, I'll drop you an email about that when I, get round to how I can get out there to Hong Kong, because as you say, it's still a little bit tricky with the COVID situation, isn't it? Really, in the quarantining and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, well, without getting too much into political side, I must say, Hong Kong is the perfect example of what happens to the city when morale is down. And I think regardless of their political preference, morale is down. And therefore, the first thing that goes is people's emotions. And when the emotions go, their diet will be impacted. Yeah. And of course, with the lockdown, they don't want to move. So their diet, so their movement is also impacted. And so what you find is they're in this insidious loop that just keeps looping. And so I think, if anything, what we ought to do as fitness professionals is at least let them know that there's hope by moving and be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great ending message for everyone there. And before you go, just let everyone know where they can get hold of you and find your book.
Sure. Dynamic Balance is available everywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Hudson, Barnes & Noble, everything, every store online should have Dynamic Balance. If they don't have it, please message me. You can find me on Instagram at Tsichu Andy, which is my Chinese name, TSZCHIU Andy, which will also be in the show notes. Or you can go to my website, tsichu.com, and you can find more information of what I do there. And please connect with me. I'd love to hear from you.
That's great, Andy. Andy, thanks. It's really been great and entertaining as well, having you on the show. It's really fantastic. And I really do hope, at some stage while I'm here, because as I say, I'll be shifting over to the UK. I'm actually more based in the UK nowadays. I was in Asia for a while, a few years. But I hope that I can maybe drop by, in a few months that I'm here, while I'm here. And or who knows, we might go on a world tour. Dream big, Dave. Yeah, well, it's the dream. UK's a place as well. So
it's the dream, Dave. It's the dream.
Exactly. All right, Andy. Well, it's great having a show, and thanks a lot for coming and sharing your info with my audience today.
Thank you, Dave.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.